Given we're at the end of a school year and the year 11s are looking to year 12, I wanted to talk about how you can use the results that students have received to predict and, more importantly, improve their ATARs in their year 12. So some of you may know, some of you may not, that I've got this website called ATAR Predictions Queensland. You should check it out. It's really cool, and I'm going to use it to do a little bit of stuff here in this video. But you can do everything that I'm talking about without this website as well. I think this one just makes it a little bit easier. Now, immediately upon making this website, I realised that ATAR Predictions Queensland was probably the wrong name for it, but I'm too far down the path now. I really should have called it ATAR Improvements Queensland, because that's what the whole website's about. That's what I'm trying to do. So let's take a look at a hypothetical year 11 student. We're going with Aaron Bloggs here. They do 6 subjects, and you can see at their particular school they do IA1, IA2, IA3, and then like an end of year IA4, and we've got totals all out of 100 here. Now, I know a lot of schools don't do this, so if you don't do this, we can go with a different Aaron Bloggs from a different school who does IA1, IA2, IA3. We can take these values out of 50 and 75 and do some division. 60 divided by 75 and you'll get 80, 39 divided by 50 and you get 78, etc. And we can use these numbers as their marks out of 100. Either way, fine. Okay, let's take this student's data and put it into my little website. So here's my website. I'm going to go into the cohort calculator because I'm like a busy dean of studies or something like that, and I just need to upload an Excel file. Now, the Excel file couldn't be simpler. It's student names, subjects, and results, either out of 100 or A to E or pass, depending on what kind of subject it is. And you can see here's our Aaron Bloggs here. So we're just going to upload that file to the website. All right, couldn't be simpler. Choose File, and then find the file we need and upload. And you can see immediately what we get is Aaron's name, subjects, the result they're getting, the scaled score, and importantly, their ATAR here. So Aaron is looking at an ATAR of 90.6. Now, cannot stress this enough. I think that 90.6 number is just not useful. It's there, you can look at it, but it's not useful because Aaron is a year 11 student. I don't think a single ATAR prediction for this student is useful. They're in year 11, they're moving into year 12, all of their results get erased, we're starting again from scratch, but importantly, I don't want a student thinking, oh great, I'm aiming for a 90.6, fantastic, the work's done. The work's not done, the work hasn't even started yet. Now, do I still think that ATAR predictions are valuable at the year 11 stage? Absolutely, as long as they're done the right way. So what I think is vitally important for a year 11 student to consider is ranged results. Alright, so Aaron in year 11 got a 78 for biology. I think it's much more important to say, look, forget that single number. You're probably not going to get that result in year 12. Let's say that you got 81. Let's say you improved by 3 marks. Let's say you went backwards. Let's say you went backwards by 3 marks. What would our ATAR range be now? And you can see that if Aaron went backwards by 3 or up by 3, the predicted ATAR is no longer a single number, 90.6. It's this range from 88.3 to 92.6. And I think that range is very, very, very important. Now, none of this works if it's just a number or just a range. It's a conversation. It's something we're talking about. So let's look at Aaron more closely and look at them in this single calculator. Now, this is all the same information, just zoomed in a little bit, right? And we can talk to Aaron now, and we can say, Aaron, how did you do in year 11? How did you do in, say, chemistry? And Aaron will say, oh, thinking back about chemistry, the research investigation, I did a really poor job on that. But I feel like I know how to get a much better result. So much better, in fact, that I don't think I'll just move up by 3 marks. I think I could pick up 3 additional marks just in the research investigation. And I could probably pick up an extra mark in the data test, and I could probably pick up an extra mark somewhere else. Not 86. This might even be, I could do as well as 95, I think. Now, if that is true, we're looking at a top of 93.15. Now, what about maths methods? Oh, yes, the PSMT was something I really struggled with. But again, I think my teacher can really help me out with that. We've talked a lot about evaluate and verify. I think I can move that up by quite a bit. And you can see how this conversation starts from a single number. And then we move to this range of numbers. But then very, very quickly, we're drilling down into subject by subject by subject. We're drilling down into assessment item by assessment item by assessment item. So this, yes, we are predicting a range of ATARs, but why are we predicting a range of ATARs? Because we're trying to improve this student's ATARs. Now, if you have the time to have that conversation and you play with all of these figures, etc., 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 you can print off some nice little thing here, and what you get is a PDF that will show you these are the subjects that you're doing, here's what could happen if you went down a little bit, here's the results you got in year 11, and here's what we think you could improve towards, and here's this nice little ATAR range you've got here. And we've all got that in just a little graphical format as well. Now, you can still get some of this benefit here if you are so busy and your school is so big that you couldn't possibly have all of those one-on-one conversations. You can come here to the cohort calculator. You've got all of your students here in one. You can say, let's go to ranged results. You can say, let's just use a benchmark. Let's just say every internal result improves by 2. So let's make the result variation plus or minus 8. Why plus or minus 8? Because if all the internals improve by 2, the external also improves by 2. So making this range from 78 to 86 or 78 down to 70, I feel like is a pretty good benchmark for an end of year 11 if you want to do it across the whole cohort. And then you can click this button here, export cohort PDFs, and it'll download every PDF for every student, and you can hand those out and have like a whole cohort discussion about what it means and how to interpret it and how to think about it. Now, I know that a lot of schools already use ranges, but I do want to caution against something that I've seen when it comes to ATAR ranges in the past. So what I've seen schools do in the past is say, all right, Aaron, we've calculated your ATAR and it's 90.6, and then a school will do a range simply by taking that single prediction and doing like plus or minus 3. So they might say your range is between 87.6 and 93.6. Now, I think that this is a very dangerous move, and I wanted to show you a couple of other students and examples of why this is sort of a dangerous move. So I have another student here named Abby Biggs. So we'll take a look at Abby, and we'll take a look at Abby in the single calculator again. All right, and you can see Abby, let's just look at her single result first of all. Now, she's getting a single ATAR of 91.8. And so it might be tempting to say to Abby, okay, you're getting a single ATAR of 91.8. Let's put a nice little range around that, and let's just do plus or minus 3. Now, in fact, if we jump into range mode with Abby, what we can see is that there's a ceiling on how well she can do in each of these subjects, because she was already doing so well in year 11. So what does that mean? Well, if we subtract 8 from each of these, we go down to 87, and that's kind of our lower range. If we add the maximum to all of these, we get a maximum of 93. So being able to say to Abby, your max here at the moment is 93, I think is pretty important, because Abby's planning for the future. We've got to be realistic about what Abby's range is. So it's still a plus or minus 6 here, 87 to 93, but it's not centered around the 91.8. We can look at another student. And so the student we can look at is Ada. So let's take a look at Ada. All right, you can see Ada's doing extraordinarily well in year 11. So if we do that same plus or minus 8, we get a range from 99.65 to 99.95 and down to 97.65. So that range is extraordinarily small now. It's only 2 points because we can't expect a student in year 11 to be going to drop a full 8 marks in all of their subjects. But even if they did drop a full 8 marks in all of their subjects, we're only looking at going down to 97.65, so that range. Now, if we took these same subjects and looked at one more student, and that student is Ali, same subjects, but she's not scoring the enormous marks that our last student was. Now, what I want to point out here is the huge range of results here. Still plus or minus 8, but now our middle result is 81.4. We're going all the way up to 90.35, which is adding 9 full marks to that. And we're going all the way down to 68.65, which is subtracting about 13 marks from that. Why is that happening? The students that are in the slightly lower end of the ATARs, and I'm saying 80 is a pretty good ATAR, the students who are here, they have enormous potential moving from year 11 to year 12. If you're getting 70 in IA 1, 2, and 3 combined, you can quite easily move from 70 to 78 by just adding 2 marks to each of your assessment items, and suddenly we're looking at a huge jump from 81.4 to 90.35. So this student here, Ali, is probably the best example of why I think this website should have been called ATAR Improvements Queensland, because this student at the end of year 11 can take a look at this data, go back over the Christmas holidays, think about the plan, talk to their teachers, look at their assessment items, and make a plan to improve that ATAR just unbelievably. So the website that I've been using to do all this is atarpredictionsqueensland.com.au. Go and check it out if you're a school leader. There's also a free calculator on there for students to use as well. Of course, you could use any ATAR calculator to do all of this, but I just think this website probably makes it a little bit easier. But I hope this idea that rather than just putting either a single number in front of a year 11 student or putting an arbitrary range in front of a student isn't going to lead to the outcomes that a more thorough and conversational aspect of it would. That's it. That's how I would be predicting and improving year 11 ATARs.